Okay, well, I'm just gonna ask the good Lord to let me have some words of wisdom for you then, Dave.
Okay. All right. I have known Jim for many, many years. He has helped me through many health concerns. And I really believe he researches and has the best products. And this is Jim Smith from Apple a Day Health Food Store. This is a small group, Jim, but thank you for coming to speak with us.
Yes.
Oh, you're most welcome, Dee. Thanks for inviting me. Well, guys, as Dee said, many years, and it's true. I have been in the nutrition industry in various forms since 1976, and so it has been a few years. But most recently is my being the manager and owner and chief administrator of, well, that would be my wife, but Apple a Day, which Vicki bought the store from her cousin in 1981, and I started there in 1984, so it's been a few years. And in fact, I think, we never did, because it was during the pandemic, we never really celebrated our 40 years of being a store in Gadsden, and we're going to have to do that. But if you guys don't know who we are Apple a Day is a little health food store that's in the Midtown Plaza. Many years ago, we were inside the grocery store, and then in the 1990s, we had a little store at Midtown, and we opened a larger store in Rainbow City. As I was talking about it earlier, the Rainbow City location after 9/11, after the steel plant closed, I didn't know what was going to happen to that little store. So Gregerson's promised us more space at Midtown, and so we just moved everything back into Midtown, and currently that little store, it's about 2,100 square feet, but it's served us well. We've got it packed. We're a full service health food store. I don't have any prepared food, but we sell, we used to sell every category that you could imagine. What I figured, and my wife also, we felt like we had the best name brands in our industry, and it was important to us to provide those products here to the people of Gadsden in our area. And then we also do the body care products and grocery and refrigerated food and you name it, we probably have some representation of it. But I would, whenever I speak to a group, and in the limited amount of time, I just want to be just as quick. If I can answer a question for any of you guys, just let me know. I'll be happy to do my best to answer it. As Dee mentioned earlier, whenever I get a question, if I don't already know the answer, from experience or from my research, I will do the research and get you an answer. And I don't necessarily accept the answers that we have been told, because even though I appreciate science, but science, when it comes to food, has made some errors over the last 50 years. We have tried to condemn eggs, and instead of recognizing that the egg can be a powerful food for some people. We have embraced Roundup, and now we're coming to the conclusion that Roundup may not have been such a great idea for people. I mean, there's lawsuits involved in it now for people who claim that it's affected their health. And so as our industry changes, the health food industry, which used to be, it was called, that it was just a fad. Well, it's a fad that's been going on for 100 years. I mean, back in the 1920s, was when they learned, for the first time how to package food to make it last a little while, because the natural food, that was a thing. There were no preservatives in it, so it didn't have a long shelf life at all. And so as packaging got better, our industry grew, and some of those pioneers from the 1920s, when I got in the industry first in the 1970s, some of them were still among the living, and I had the pleasure of getting to meet some of these guys that are now, they're gone, but the impact that they had on the health of this nation is really, it's not been appreciated so much, because the pharmaceuticals have taken control. I mean, they really, literally have taken control. They spent, back when I was a citizen lobbyist for our industry, that was back in the late 1980s and early 1990s, we would go up there and talk to congressmen, and we would offer them money from our political action committee, and it'd be like a couple of $1,000s. And the staff or that congressman would tell me, he said, well, the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association just gave the congressman $20,000. And folks, this is in 1980s and early 1990s. I'm going to tell you, those amounts that are funneled to Congress are tremendous amounts of money now. And when you hear somebody say, oh, they're owned by Big Pharma, they very well could be owned by Big Pharma. I've heard some numbers here recently about what is funneled to some senators, and how do they get away with that? How do they are able to provide so much for them to spend on their political campaigns is what they do. And so there's no bottling company able to match that kind of funding that the pharmaceutical manufacturers have. So we are, struggling. I'll give you just a side note. We worked for years to get the Office of Dietary Supplements opened under HHS. And we were very excited. We thought that there was going to be some scientific evidence backing up our products so that we could, tell consumers, because that's what they demand of us. They tell us that we can't make claims for our products, because then they would be drugs. But to have the science to back up our products to the public, you have to have scientific studies. And so if we ever had a scientific study that proved anything, then our industry would lose that product, because it would then become a medicine. So they took the natural medicines pretty much away from us. But do you think Big Pharma or any other interest did anything with those natural medicines? No. Not a thing. Under the Office of Dietary Supplements, and I know I may sound like I'm rambling, but under the Office of Dietary Supplements, they studied ginger root for 20 years to prove that it was safe for pregnant women. It took 20 years of government science to prove that. That's something that women had been using for nausea, for pregnancy, for generations. But to get the stamp of approval on it took 20 years. And then, do you recall hearing any pregnant women saying their doctor told them they could take ginger? No, none. And that's what we put up with. In fact, the Office of Dietary Supplements has spent